My parents tried to rebuild the family they gave up. But when I refused to turn my life into a tribute, the truth about our broken bond came out. My parents had a kid before me, teen male, and they gave her up for adoption because they were young teens. They had an open adoption with her and saw her sometimes, and when I was born, they really pushed this idea that we were one family and she would live with us again, and she adored me, but the memories I have of her are way different. She stuck to her adoptive family and only claimed her adoptive sibling as siblings. She used to tell me she didn't want me to call her my sister, and she'd correct me if I called my parents our parents. She'd tell me her parents were the people raising her. It confused me because my parents would say something different, and I used to get a little anxious about seeing her because I felt like she didn't like me, and my parents said I was wrong, so it was confusing. It was 10 years ago that we last saw her. She was in her mid to late teens by then, but she told her parents she didn't want contact anymore, and they told my parents the visits were going to end. My parents never got over it, and it hurt our relationship. They kept filling me with lies about her coming to live with us and loving us and how she was still ours, and she'd be back in our lives soon. They'd tell me I was wrong when I'd bring up how she didn't like seeing or how she didn't like me. Even when we no longer saw her, they'd say I was wrong. I feel like my parents messed me up with that stuff when I was younger, and the thing is, they feel like our life should be focused around the child they gave up and the relationship we'll all have someday. I gave up asking why she didn't get in touch yet. She's got to be 27 now, and we still heard nothing from her. They don't want to accept it, and they hate when people think I'm an only child and I don't correct it. They told me I need to always talk about my sister, and I should be doing everything to let her know I love and miss her. I'm with my boyfriend, teen male now, and he's great. His family is amazing too. They know I struggle with my parents. So his parents suggested inviting me for dinner to see if they could maybe encourage my parents to focus on the kid they have instead of the one they don't have. But my parents talked all the time about the daughter they gave up, and they kept saying how I couldn't get married until she's back, and telling my boyfriend he should get ready to have a sister-in-law if we stay together. My boyfriend's parents would try to change the subject, and my parents kept the topic of their daughter going. The breaking point for dinner was when they asked my boyfriend's parents if I told stories about their daughter, and my boyfriend's parents didn't know the answer. I don't talk about her much. My parents told me if I'm serious about my boyfriend, they should know everything about my sister, so we can all be a family in the future, and they told me they were ashamed of me, keeping her a secret, and how I need to talk about her more. I told them nobody wants to hear about her. They're the only people who want to make sure everyone knows about her and gets personal info on everything. I said people really don't care and they need to stop making it such a big deal. I tell them I don't have to make their daughter my whole personality. My boyfriend's mom tried to point out that they're pushing me away and they should be enjoying having me, but my parents only cared that I said their daughter shouldn't be talked about all the time. They were furious. He argued and I ended up staying at my boyfriend's house for a couple of nights, but then my parents made me go home and they said I had no business talking to them like that in front of others. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. At this point, it looks like you won't have a daughter and a son. I understand why the daughter doesn't want anything to do with them. If I was you, I would go no contact ASAP. Just work on building a chosen family that will support you. As your sister showed, family is not about blood, but about the people who love and support and respect you. Yeah, it's really no wonder why the daughter ghosted them. She saw how obsessive and possessive they were, realized they would suffocate her with their clinginess if she let them in, and ran for the hills. Honestly, good for her. For her sake, I hope she's never found. Really, your parents are never going to accept that their daughter doesn't want anything to do with you or them. An open adoption only works if the bio family acts like aunt and uncle. Your parents are morons. Do yourself a favor and get away from them as soon as possible. Then they can live in their minds with their imaginary daughter. My brother and his friends got really into using this app. Basically, you download or upload a picture, and it rates you out of 10 plus, gives you some advice on how to improve. Basically, you're intended to use it on yourself as more of a self-improvement tool. But that's not how they were using it. They put the girls in their class into it, taking pictures from their Instagram and ranking and laughing about them in their group chats. They grouped them into categories like would, if I were drunk, etc. He'd literally laugh about it around the dinner table. Obviously, I found this extremely disrespectful towards women, so I called him out on it. My own mom started making fun of me, telling me I'm being too sensitive and that he's just joking around and not hurting anyone. So after I put his own photos into the app and sent it into the family group chat, he scored a 4.5. My parents were really upset with me, something about hurting his confidence at his age. is an awful thing to do, and he never shared the photos with the girls, so he's not hurting anyone. I know his friends did for sure, hearing from one of the girls. He also insisted that the app is primarily for women, despite the marketing heavily featuring men and having categories for crap like masculinity and physique if you're a man. I'm being banned from my phone until I can make it up to my brother, which my parents warned could take weeks. My family are really upset with me and say I could have permanently damaged his confidence. Am I the idiot for telling my brother his score on the Rate My Looks Eye app? Your parents sure do seem to prefer your ugly brother. Your brother was willing to judge others but didn't want to be judged himself. Remind them that the Bible literally says that you shouldn't judge others unless you'd be okay with them judging you, not the idiot. Rating and ranking girls based on their looks is objectification. Plain and simple. Your brother needs to face the consequences of his inappropriate behavior, especially for objectifying underage classmates. Your parents should address his actions instead of punishing you, including reviewing his phone, ensuring he apologizes, and teaching him respect. He needed this lesson in accountability, and you're doing a better job than your parents at guiding him. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If your brother can dish out ratings, he should learn to take one too. Maybe now he'll think twice before turning his dinner table into the worst episode of Who's the Fairest of Them All. Your brother needed this lesson in humility. Good job at being a better parent than your mom and dad. My husband and I live in a 3-bedroom apartment. We sleep in the master bedroom, and until earlier this year, the other 2 were a guest room and an office space we both shared. Our first child was born in October, and we decided to turn the guest room into his nursery. We thought about sacrificing the office instead, but decided we needed it more than the guest room. I work on site, but I also do some freelancing from home, and my husband works hybrid. We don't need to do our work from the office, but it's more comfortable and less chaotic, especially now that we have a baby. On the other hand, we rarely have guests over. If we do, the office is big enough to set a mattress. Edit a normal one, not an air mattress, on the floor. My father lives in a different country. He's traveling here for Christmas in about a week, and this will be his first time meeting my son in person. Last time he came, I was pregnant, and we still had the guest room, so we stayed there during his visit. A couple weeks ago, my father called to ask whether he could stay at my apartment again this year. I said sure, but we don't have the guest room anymore, so he'd have to sleep in the office. He asked what I meant, and I told him we'd turn the guest room into the baby's nursery. He then asked why I hadn't gotten rid of the office instead, and as I explained my husband's reasoning, my father got annoyed and said, whatever, I'll get a hotel, before hanging up on me. The next day, my father texted me. He said it was selfish and inconsiderate of me and my husband to keep an office. We don't actually need over a room to properly house potential guests. He added that he didn't raise me to be such an awful hostess, and it's insane of me to think people would be okay sleeping on a mattress on the floor. My sister is siding with my father, and I'm starting to doubt myself here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. A home should be set up for the best interests of the people who live there. You and your husband both regularly work from home. Sure, you can make do without the office, but it would be awkward and inconvenient for you both. It's quite absurd for someone who isn't paying any part of the rent or living there to expect you to suffer routine inconvenience in your own home year-round, to better be convenient for them a few days a year. This, dear gods, this. You live in your house and it should accommodate what you and your family need, not something or someone that visits once a year. You offered a place to sleep, and that was enough. Let your dad enjoy his hotel. You're not an awful hostess. He's an awful guest. He's entitled and rude. This was our reasoning as well. When we first moved into this house, the second bedroom became the guest room and general storage area, and we were cramped fitting a desk with 2 computers in a tiny box room. Took us maybe 10 years to realize it was stupid to have the bigger room going unused, except for that 1 week a year. My parents would come over when we needed the space for ourselves. So we swap. Okay, when the sofa bed is down, it's just about the only thing that fits in there, so it's not super convenient, but it still works as a bedroom if you're only staying a week. Meanwhile, we work from home and finally have proper desks set up. So yeah, I'm totally with you, Op. You are the idiot. Old people can't get up from the floor. You and your wife could swap beds with him when he stays. Let him have yours and you have the mattress on the floor. Alternatively, get a proper bed as minimum guest furniture plus desk and chair as minimum office furniture. I, 18 female, work for my dad and get paid really well for my age. I've been working for him for a year, saving most of my income in an account they don't have access to while keeping a little for daily expenses. My relationship with my parents is rocky because their marriage is toxic, and my sibling, tween male and I, are often caught in the crossfire of their unresolved issues. I live with them, but I'm planning to move out and take my sibling with me when I can. Recently, things have been calm between us, so I thought maybe I could trust them more. They've always said my money is mine, so I didn't see this coming. Last night, they asked to see how much was in my savings account. When I showed them, they grabbed my phone and ignored my questions about what they were doing. I overheard them transferring $990, the daily limit, into their loan account without my permission. When I got upset, my dad laughed and told me to transfer another $990 the next day. They didn't explain why they were taking the money or asked for my help beforehand. This morning, my mom admitted it was for their mortgage. I told her they could have asked me instead of taking it without permission. She said, "Your money's our money, and you're getting the house when we die. So what's the problem?" That really hurt because I worked hard for my savings to secure my future and help my sibling, and now it feels like all my work is pointless. I refused to give them more money, which led to a screaming match with my mom. She accused me of being selfish and ungrateful since they provided for me my whole life. I do feel grateful, but I also feel like they crossed a line by taking my money without asking and then demanding more. I understand they're under financial stress, but I feel like they're treating me like an ATM instead of their daughter. I am questioning whether I should just give in to keep the peace, though it feels wrong. Or as time will close, why I might be the idiot. I refuse to give them more money for their mortgage, even though I live under their roof, and they've supported me in the past. Maybe I'm being selfish by prioritizing my savings instead of helping them during a tough time. Am I in the wrong for saying no? Not the idiot. They stole from you. I'd move the money to another bank and change account access to only you. Call the bank and report the unauthorized transfers out of your account. You might also need a police report. I say this nicely, but stop being so naive. Since they provided for me, my whole life, this mindset from parents makes me so incredibly angry. Like, yeah, you actively chose to have children. Literally, your one job is to provide for them. They didn't ask to be born. You made that decision, and when you make that decision, you face the consequences of it, aka providing for them financially for as long as you need to. I suspect you're being paid really well for your age by your dad is because he assumed you'd then pay him. It's a tax dodge to extract money from the business more cheaply than paying himself directly. Such arrangements are quite common, but usually all parties are aware of it, agree to it, and understand it. If he just assumed your money is his, then he miscalculated. Move out and file a police report. Your parents think they can get away with theft, and you're letting them. Update. Thanks to everyone that offered their advice. And I listened and called the bank, and they've restricted all transfers out of the savings account, which is good. They also said that the only way right now to get the $990 back is by lodging a police report, but I decided against it. I know I'm just not mentally strong enough to go against my parents like that at the moment. Me, 30 female, and my boyfriend, 34 male, have been together since middle of August, so around a few months. He recently got out of a relationship of 5 years earlier this year in January, or maybe a year ago. Though the past few weeks, I've discovered that he's still in contact with her and almost regularly texting with her. I told him it made me uncomfortable that he's still in contact with her. His reason was that he wanted to stay in contact with her in case of an emergency or her kids needed his help with anything since he was there through their teenage years. I understand that. But at the same time, recently, I found out he's deleting their messages and she's still texting him things saying things like, "I'm home now, blah, blah, blah." And normally I'm not this paranoid in a relationship that's going well like this one is. He told me if her current partner wanted them to cut contact, then they would both respect it. But he said he wouldn't want to be with someone who asked him to do that. So he indirectly told me we would break up if I were to ask him to do that. I feel if I could just randomly check on his phone with his permission every now and then, I'd be okay. But I know that's a massive invasion of privacy. And that's the last thing I want to do is break what trust we have in each other, or rather his trust in me, because at the moment I don't trust him very much. How should I go about this? Wait, so if her partner says they should cut contact, he'd do it. But if his partner, you said that you'd get the axe, not the idiot, throw this one back. It's defective. That's wholly unserious behavior. He's not ready. This on top of the fact that he deletes the texts. What is he hiding that he doesn't want to give up? This isn't about her kids maybe needing help and him being a family friend to them. Their relationship ended a year ago. She shouldn't be texting him, "I'm home." Now they're still very much enmeshed, and it's unhealthy for their respective partners at any time. Cut the ties. Now you deserve someone who is 100 yours. My bear is he's fawning over her and desperate to keep in touch. He's keeping him engaged enough to keep him coming back, and op is the backup plan. People are brought into our lives to teach us lessons. Sometimes that lesson is what we shouldn't settle for in a partner.